also the edge of the painting that the line stops short of. You're forced to consider that edge. In the other case, you're forced to see that whole horizontal empty rectangle he's started dividing because he deliberately doesn't continue dividing it. Mondrian influenced modern architecture, but it had no interest for him. He thought architects were hopeless materialists. He envisaged a new shape, architectural environment all over the world that would be pure flat plains, lacking solidity of any kind. I don't know how that would work, and I suspect Mondrian didn't either. He's tough on what he thinks of as deception. He wants to get to truth. He's dealing all the time with ideas, but the main one is visual order. He provides a visual organisation so elegant and complex that it's capable of endless reinterpretation. But you've got to recognise in the first place that it is visual. And if the particular nature of that organisation, pure abstraction, accords with Mondrian's theosophical beliefs, namely that everything we see around us is only an illusion. Maya is the Indian word for that illusion, adopted by theosophy as theosophy adopts terms from all religions. So a purely abstract painting is more true to the real reality that lies behind everything than a painting that attempts to capture aspects of the illusion version of that higher reality. That is a mind twist as well as a sentence twist. Nevertheless, the painting is a visual work of art that demands to be seen on its own visual terms.
Right, now this has to go down.
Nature doesn't disappear in abstract art. Nature's laws are condensed into a visual form. That's the rule Tess Jarre follows. Paintings that combine all sorts of processes, including printing instead of painting.
I have to clean that up pretty fast.
I see you're doing something that has to be quite precise, but precision isn't the meaning of what you're doing.
Absolutely not. Precision is only ever a tool. It should look as though there is an ambiguity between what is in front and what is behind. You can't quite tell, and that is a way of engaging people with the object.
As you say, there's an ambiguity about the front and the behind. There's a sort of flicker between the two colours.
Exactly that. So you're not just being presented with something, you are being asked to participate.
Yes.
So
in looking, you're kind of part of the process of what's happening.
Yes.
You're doing small things here that one could pick up and hold almost like an icon or timeless objects. You are doing things which are very, very resolutely abstract, can have only a couple of colours. There's a certain type of surface, very much a physical thing as well as an optical thing.
I think that's incredibly important. I mean, in a way, this is how we see the world. Everything is surface.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to you, that's all I'm seeing. Because I want the colour to be as intense as possible, I get it screen print with oil-based ink. If I use paint, it's almost impossible to get a completely smooth surface. The more evidence you have on a surface of the way it's done, the less you're going to understand or feel the intensity of the colour.
Right, right.
So, I mean, I would like to reduce everything down to its essentials. So in that way, it's kind of following nature.
So you're very, very concentrated visual events in a way. They're a concentrated, honed, condensed version of reality, of the world.
Yes, exactly that.
Very simplified shapes.
And I try to say it with as little added, as little pretension, as directly as I mean, this whole very complicated system is really set up in order to produce something that looks as though it's totally simple and just popped into the world.
Jesus inside geometric shapes. This is an icon in the Byzantine style from the 15th century. The Russian abstract artist Malevich respected this look. Byzantine art stripped down the realistic style that existed in Greek and Roman times, art that shows in detail how reality looks. So a higher reality can be contemplated. Byzantine art ditched the detailed look in favour of simple signs. And for the same reason, Malevich displayed his abstract paintings as if they were icons in a Russian church. He's offering a modern proposal about simple signs serving a higher reality. The rule that form is feeling. Kandinsky stated it, but Malevich took it to the furthest extreme. When Malevich created his pure geometric abstract art style, which he called suprematism, in 1915, the First World War was underway. There were food shortages, collapsing morale. There was despair at brutality and death. The following year, Malevich was a soldier in the army himself. You're looking at squares again. What are these ones doing? Two of them. One black, one red. One large, one small. One tilted, suggesting movement.
Paint is capable of so much more than this, so we know we're being told about extreme limitation. Two squares surrounded by white. There's a set of mathematical relationships there where shapes and spaces are made to seem visually equivalent. So the black shape is the same as the white space underneath it. The white space to the right of the red shape is somewhat the same as the red shape. There's a sense throughout of this is this, this is this, this is the same as this. Movement implied by something very, very small. You'd think you couldn't get much more reduced than that. But this painting was done very shortly after he created a work called The Black Square, the most famous abstract painting in history.
He redid the original version several times because its surface cracked. This 1923 version is a delight of velvety, rich, granulated, brushy blackness. The creation of something out of nothing, a painted something.
There's something absurd about it, as if with suprematism there's a rightness of shapes, but insanity about how he got to that rightness.
He said the logical consequence of no one ever being able to put back together all the fragmented bits of reality in cubism is that art should take the next step and abandon logic, embrace its absence.
Malevich was offered a word for no-logic creativity by the poets he knew. The word was zeum. The poets wrote manifestos for a changed future in which the food shortages would be solved by transforming soil into bread. Horses would be free and there'd be equal rights for cows.
Where you might make out a table with a violin on it in a Picasso cubist painting, a Malevich cubist painting would have a violin with a cow on it. His friends called themselves futurists. He put on an opera with them in 1913. He provided sketches for costumes and sets. And 2 years later, he elaborated this sketch into the Black Square.
He painted it in a kind of ecstasy. He couldn't sleep or eat. He was so jangled. It all seemed clear. He wrote that the black square equals feeling. The white field equals the void, beyond feeling. Supreme, in the word suprematism, the name that Malevich gave to his geometric style, means supreme over reality. He said that the objects that make up this world are not reality. They might call forth feeling, but feeling separated from reality is the only true reality.
He means the objects out there that we assume to make up objective reality don't really. In fact, it's only by abstracting objects that we can get to reality. This has a long title, but part of it is the term fourth dimension. It was fascinating to artists. Time warped by space, or the other way around.
Ordinary existence warps into higher existence in the fourth dimension. That was the claim of the Russian theosophist P.D. Uspensky. Malevich absorbed the theosophical lesson, like so many abstract artists then, and built it into his paintings. Abstraction soaring into the beyond.
He explained to his students, "We've come to the rejection of reason, but only because there's a new form of reason now." Some of Malevich's students would become the new Russian avant-garde that would make him seem old-fashioned. They were called constructivists. One of them was Lyubov Popova. This is a design by her for the cover of a magazine from 1922. The fact that it is abstraction turned to a functional use tells you about the turn taken in the early 20s by abstract art in Russia.
Clarity, powerful look-atability. But it's not about contemplating the ineffable. It's about making a magazine attractive and looking at new things, because it's a magazine of new kino, new cinema. To appreciate that as a jump as radical as abstraction being invented in the first place, you have to look once again at what abstraction is.
Abstraction strips everything down to form, but form can be radically different from instance to instance, even though it looks like it's just more form. This painting by Popova from 1917 was influenced by Malevich's teaching. The difference between it and her magazine cover from a few years later, when she'd become a constructivist, is that form isn't feeling for the constructivists. Form is useful. There'd been World War and Civil War. Now there was extreme poverty, violence, hunger, breakdown of communication and transport, and out of all that, not just a new society had to be built, but a type that had never existed before on Earth. The constructivists identified the factories as the centre of production. Art should move there. They even changed the name of art to production. This is a productivist sculpture by one of Popova's colleagues, Vladimir Steenberg. This form could be a prototype for what a socialist society would actually look and feel and be like, as opposed to how such a society had been theorised and dreamed of before the revolution. Popova's